Have you ever been on RMK and seen all those beautiful boards and thought to yourself, I want one of those, only to find out that they're like $3, $4, $500, and you're like, that's expensive. How am I supposed to afford these? Well, I might just have the board for you. Stay tuned till after the break. What's up, guys? My name is Merlin and welcome back to my show. Today we'll be reviewing the NK65 from Novelkeys. The NK65 is Novelkey's first branded keyboard. It features USB-C, hot swap PCB, QMK and VIA compatibility, aluminum case, per key RGB lighting, 8-degree typing angle, a protective case, and the total built weight is roughly 3 pounds. All for the low price of $140. July 2019 pricing at least. Anyway, let's take a look at my particular board. I've linked the build stream in the description down below, so feel free to watch it for the full build log and a step-by-step guide. I built my unit with ZealPC Telios for that smooth, buttery linear feel along with cubic keycaps. Let's examine this board a little more in depth. First, things that I dislike. Number 1, hot swap. This one is not so much a dislike, but rather I prefer soldered PCBs. One thing I have an issue with is that hot swap PCBs force you into a layout, and if you don't put switches in properly, you can possibly pop off the sockets. Number 2, the layout. This is what we call in QMK the layout _65 ANSI layout. You have mostly everything standard for 65%, but you have 3 1U keys to the right of spacebar. I much prefer having a blocker in this position and having 2 1.25U keys instead. Why? Having a blocker helps me easily locate where the arrow keys are. In this case, I could potentially press the key to the left of the arrow key if I'm not looking down. Just learn to touch type, Merlin. Gosh. Number 4, T6 screws. Torx screwdrivers are not something everyone has. Though one could argue that if you're an enthusiast in this hobby, you ought to have one. Regardless, this board requires T6 to properly put together. The screws that secure the plate to the top and the screws that secure the top to the bottom are all T6 screws. If you don't have one, go out and buy one. You're pretty much blocked from proceeding further. This board is a little bit hollow sounding. Without any foam, this board has a slight tinny resonance. It's not as noticeable as most boards, but you can definitely still hear it. Now that we're done with all the bad stuff, this board actually has a lot to love. Let's start with the PCB. This is a very beautiful PCB. It's designed by Yankar. If you've heard that name before, he's also responsible for the HS60 series, the Gingham, and several custom boards in the community. Contrary to what is depicted online, the production PCB that people received is actually black, not green. All traces look very well laid out, soldering looks impeccable, and overall it's just a good looking PCB. Number 2, price. I mentioned it earlier already, but the price is one of this board's biggest draws. $140. That's about the cost of a GMK set. Without knowing the price, I would have guessed that this was at least a $250 board. But Merlin, $140 is still a lot of money. It is, but compared to other boards that also have an aluminum case and similar features such as the ones available on KBD fans, this is still considered cheap. Keep in mind, it is $140 and is sold through a US retailer located in West Virginia. Why is this board so cheap? I've always wondered, but if you look at the case, you'll see that all of the edges are straight. The points are also sharp. There are no curves anywhere, which I would assume makes it a lot easier to manufacture. How much cheaper that would be, I have no clue. Next thing I love is the protective case. You don't even see this level of carrying case for most boards in the $300 to $400 range. Granted, it's not as hefty or durable as the cases from TX keyboards, but this should totally save your board from a few drops. Still, I wouldn't test it out if I were you, but that would probably make a really good video. I like how this board weighs. It's roughly 3 pounds, which to me is where a board of this size should fall. Anything heavier just makes it too unwieldy in my opinion. The HS60 has 3 indicator LEDs on the rightmost edge of the board. Default firmware has the top being a caps lock indicator, the middle being a layer 1 indicator, and the bottom being the layer 2 indicator. Be advised that if you have the key to activate layer 2 located on layer 1, this corresponding LED will actually not light up. Mounting style. This keyboard has a rather unique mounting style. At first it seems like it's only top mount as the PCB screws into the plate and then the plate screws into the top half of the case. However, this whole top piece then screws into the bottom half to the PCB. While it's not entirely top mount, it's also not entirely tray mount. It doesn't feel as good as a full top mount, and it also doesn't feel as bad as a full tray mount. Admittedly, I may have some confirmation bias here, as a $140 board couldn't possibly feel as good as a much more expensive board with better mounting. Right? Anodization on this is pretty consistent and I see no blemishes or discoloring anywhere around the case. If there was any discoloring, it would be hard to see. Unlike other boards where the top half and the bottom half are both visible from the side, you can't really see the bottom half at all. Any discoloring present would be well hidden. Lastly, recessed USB-C. If you've seen any of my streams, I completely love magnetic USB-C cables. The big thing about USB-C mag connectors is that they stick out. On the NK65, the recessed port helps conceal this a little more than usual. It could probably use a little more, but at least it doesn't prevent me from sticking it in its fancy case. Final impressions. Overall, I'm very impressed with this board. This can't be compared to something like a Keycult or any 65% in that price category, but I believe this is the best 65% board you can purchase in the $100 to $200 price range. Just keep in mind that to build this board, you'll need some specialized tools such as a T6 bit. I love the features and its overall case design, and I absolutely wish I would have bought 2. Hopefully they'll restock soon on the Novelkeys website. Anyway, I enjoyed reviewing this board a lot. I originally wanted to keep it as my work board, but I love it enough that it's staying home with me. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye now.